Hey folks, welcome to Transplant Helper again today. My name is Jim Merle, and today we're going to be doing something that I consider to be pretty special. It's something I haven't actually done here on the program before. And then as I'm going to be going over live to one of these Facebook groups right now that I'm a member of, going through, scrolling around, trying to answer some of those questions that are actually happening in the group right now. Now, for my choice today, and I may do other groups later, I'm choosing to go and take a look at the Heart Transplant Support Group. And you'll find that again on Facebook. It's one of these private groups. It happens to be the one that I typically recommend the most. And I do that for several reasons. There are a lot of great groups out there, but I tend to recommend the Heart Transplant Support Group the most, mainly because it has a good number of participants. There are over 5,000 members in the group. And out of those participants, they seem to be very well educated in their difficulties, their problems, transplant life in general, and they seem to be very active. Some of these groups I'm members of are just as large. A couple are even larger than this one. However, I've noticed I can go over and post a video, say on Tuesday, to share with you guys, and then come back on Thursday and I'm the last post. So not nearly as active, some of them, as a Heart Transplant Support Groups. I always recommend them for that. If you want activity to where you can post something and you'll get some kind of feedback on it within a matter of minutes probably, that's the group for you. In addition to that, I think it happens to be one of the kindest groups out there. There are some times when you get in the midst of a group and there are going to be some skirmishes, some discussion, some argument even. Hate to see that, but it happens. We have varied opinions on such. But overall, this group has the least amount of that. And I think that can be directly attributed to its administrator as well as the moderators that participate in the group. They're very good about getting in early and answering some of the questions very definitively, if possible, if there's maybe some real information to back the answer up. And then in turn, monitoring the comments later to be sure that they're not getting off topic or out of hand. Hope that never happens, but it has happened before. And very good about trying to screen the members as they come in, making sure these are people who have real needs, that don't have agendas behind that. And again, not perfect. Nobody's perfect in that, but I think the Heart Transplant Support Group is one of the better ones. So anyway, I'm pulling it up. These are just some of the questions that are still laying on my page live. Let's see. I guess I'll say the names. Please, I hope it doesn't offend anyone to say the names, but Paul Ford is just one of the ones that pops up first in this curated search or sort it does. But Paul Ford asks, have any of you had a I can't read. I can't read right. Have any of you after transplant gotten a service dog to assist you in terms of helping with the emotional side of things? It's been suggested to me, and I'm just curious. I know that it may sound like a crazy idea, but everyone battles with different thoughts on the process. Well, Paul Ford, to you and everyone else, there were a number here, I think 36 people commented on that. I think in general, that would be a wonderful idea if you could qualify for such. If you've got someone who's willing to sign off on that, I don't know, doctors, whoever, I think it's a wonderful idea. I don't have a service dog per se, but I've had a dog. We've got a couple of dogs actually here in the country, but I've had a dog for years. Her name's Bella. We actually call her Bella Sarah Zendaya Merle. Got a long name and the last name of us, but she's just a little Chihuahua type mix. So I call her my Mexican nurse because over the years, especially pre-transplant, she was the one that was there. She would sit in my lap all day and comfort me, and she could kind of coddle me, and she knew when I didn't feel as well as I did other days. Always big smile on her face. The typical friendly dog. She's also great with my children, especially my young children. They love her to death. So she's been a huge encouragement to me, and probably like any case would help me out and does help many out emotionally. Because there's been so many studies done to show that having that constant companion, having that, that pet there, and especially if you can get one who's actually trained to help you with some kind of situation you're dealing with, great. So mostly I think that's a great idea. I think most of the comments here would probably agree with that. So yeah, Paul, I would suggest looking into it. And if that doesn't work out, maybe just trying to find your own personal pet. And I think a lot will be done even in that. So thank you so much for that. And then I got another question here, just the next one that pops up. Sonny Loki, which is a recent transplant recipient. Congratulations on that. But Sonny asks says, had anyone gotten a transplant outside of their home stage? Now, I assume he means their region. I got mine in Seattle, Washington, which is 3 hours away from my home in Portland, organ? Well, the answer to that is absolutely yes. As a matter of fact, my heart, we didn't have to move, thankfully, but my heart came from Oklahoma, out of the Oklahoma area. So it was actually flown in. I think the flight itself was like 5 hours or something at the time. My heart came from a long distance away, and I was blessed that I got it out of that region. You know, our regions, our centers first, then kind of our states, and then our regions are kind of usually the confining barriers to our availability of organs. And mine came all the way from Oklahoma, so it came out of a different region from which I live. So, yeah, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that they're expanding some of those borders, not necessarily giving priority to those outside of regions, but leaving the availability there. And now with technology as it is, of course, we've had, you know, jet planes that can get things there quickly. We got drones coming up that there's a possibility out there. I've had a program on that. I'll link it up here in the corner and check it out. But we've got other possibilities as far as transporting of organs that may really widen those borders. Now, to your question more directly, I'm sure there are a lot, I know there are a lot that have gotten transplants totally outside of their regions, who lived in one part of the country, ended up way over in another part of the country to get that transplant. I've had programs on that. I think maybe I'll be able to link that. I don't know, but you know, that is a situation where it just has to happen sometimes. It's just better to be in an area maybe where there's a bigger transplant center, maybe a higher quality transplant center if there's such. You know, being in an area where you're comfortable, where you've got access to the treatment to begin with is great. And if you have to go from one place to another to get that, I know there have been several transplant centers over the last however long that have actually, their programs have been shut down, and so having to go for that. The only thing I caution about in that is just keeping in mind that typically your aftercare for a period of time, whether it's a year or lifetime, is going to be occurring at that transplant center most likely. And so you need to kind of calculate in, okay, this may not be a, you know, go out there in 6, 12 weeks, get a transplant and come home. This may be a much longer endeavor than that. It may involve traveling for years to go back and to get the care that you want. Not that there may not be, excuse me, comparable care nearby, but it may be that you just become comfortable with that team and you don't want to change. And so you have to consider that. And I've often referred to Mark Johnson in that. He's one that was forced by some situations to go, you know, out of his comfort zone, go way across, further across the country to receive transplant after the fact, when that became problematic as far as, you know, him having different, you know, viruses and stuff he needed to get attention to, and having to go to regular clinic visits. His family decided finally to pick up and move. But Sonny, I've been watching your progress. I know you're doing absolutely great, so hopefully that'll continue. But yeah, several have done that. 92 comments here, so that's kind of a leading idea of how more widely spread this is. And then we got another one here. Someone just mentioning they've had a vacation. Renee Cole, vacation, 6 days in, feeder starting to swell. You know, just they're going to hurt and increasing some of the medications. Yeah, that happens to the best of us. I don't have as many issues. Did not have pre, do not have post personally with swelling and fluid and such as that. But man, there are times when you just, without even trying, you kind of tend to overdo it. Being on vacation is one of them. It's always strange to me that we all go on vacation to relax and to rest, and there's sometimes we're able to do that, but a lot of times, at least for our family, it's nothing to do with that. We get on vacation, especially with all the young kids running around. You know, we're busy. By the time we go and eat several times a day, we end up shopping, we end up going, you know, to wherever, whether it's the beach, the mountains, whatever. We're wore out and ready to come home. And I may be crashed out for a week afterward, but you know, that's the way it is. And there are a lot of suggestions here for her in the 34 comments have to do with not only medications, but compression socks and all that. My wife wears compression hoses for other reasons and tremendous help. As a matter of fact, she'll tell you that she hates to wear them, but she hates not to wear them even more. So can be very helpful here. That's more of a personal thing. So let me see. Hold on. I'm just kind of summarizing some things. I'll just say this poster right here from Friday, I won't call the name, having a very difficult time post-transplant. And I know that transplant doesn't go smoothly for everybody. Matter of fact, I don't think it goes smoothly for anybody. But for a lot of us, it can be extremely difficult. And there's not only the emotional issues to deal with pre and post-transplant, there are the physical issues that can just seem to come on and on and on and on, just keep hammering away at us. I had a program the other day called Don't Get Discouraged. I'll try to link it here as well. Just kind of a reminder that things are not going to be perfect, but things can be better, and just give it time. I know a lot of people who experience transplant who have, those really quick seeming recoveries, and you hear about them because they post about it. We post, not to say we brag, but we post about our success. But there's some failures out there in the background, not failure, but people who have a harder time with recovery, where the recoveries last a year or two or more. I know I personally, as well as I did in the onset, I didn't feel like myself or better than that until I was about a year out. As a matter of fact, I just had a transcatheter aortic valve replacement, and I'll talk about that again later, but I really hadn't felt that good since transplant until getting that done. So that process and procedures, it's all a process of time and growth, and hopefully you got some good support out there. 50 people right here supporting that particular conversation, so maybe that's good. Gail Multop, and I'm sorry, Gail, I see you all the time. I may not say your name right, but she's talking about going to the ENT yesterday, getting some things checked out. They had to take a sample. They actually, I'm sorry for you, said they scraped the inside of her nose. Since that occurred, she's been running a fever of 100. Called the coordinator to check that out. And I think that's great. The scrapings there, I have heard of that before. I don't want to have to deal with it, but the scrapings, the biopsies of the nose and those cavities have been done before, and yes, can cause a low-grade fever afterward because your body is reacting to that. It may not be a bacteria, a virus that's gotten in, but your body is reacting in the healing process. It's sending those blood cells over there to rescue, to try to get ready to heal and patch that, and that can cause an elevated temperature. If those white and red blood cells elevate or lower themselves pretty quickly, causes a little bit of a fever. That 100-degree temp, by the way, would a lot of times you'd be told that's not a fever, that's not a temperature, but in the transplant world, you need to consider that as such. Now, again, your team will give their opinion on that, I guess, I'm sure, but in the transplant world, that needs to be considered as kind of a temperature because some of the medications we're on tend to suppress those fevers. Being immune suppressed, obviously, would suppress the potential of fever. So I like to tell people with me, if my fever measured at 100 like that, just a flat 100, that's actually like anybody else having a fever of 102 or 3 because you can feel that bad and it can be that symptomatic and just be miserable, achy, body aches, sweats, freezing cold 1 minute, sweating the next, all that goes on, even at those seemingly low-grade temperatures. And that's because our body's not responding as quickly. But it's great to have it checked out because it could be more than the healing process, could be an infection. And so wonderful to check that out. Let me see here. We've got 28 people already responded. I tell you, this is a great group. 28 people already responded, many of which are saying in here they've been there, done that, and what they've experienced in that. This person right here, and I will no way I'll be able to say the name properly, but Trania. I don't know. Can you look at it? I don't know if you can see that. You probably can't see that in the camera. But Ivan says, I finally have a date for my transplant evaluation. Does anyone have any tips, suggestions, or recommendations? Well, congratulations on having that date. Transplant evaluations are huge accomplishments because it takes a process of time. Now, there are a few cases where someone, has a heart attack, a stroke, whatever, they end up in the hospital, boom, they're evaluated, and there you go, they're on the list. But most cases are not like that. It's a long, progressive thing where you get sicker and then eventually they make the decision. Then the evaluation itself takes a long time. And I've got a whole series of videos about the transplant evaluation. I will link that playlist up here in the corner. I would suggest, Ian, that you go over and check some of that out because I've got it looking at it from so many different perspectives. Maybe there's 5 or 6 videos just on the evaluation. What goes on during the evaluation? What do the tests mean? What type of burdens are brought out during the evaluation? What are the blessings? What are the hard things about it? Talk about a lot of that. But as far as basic suggestions, I would say a couple. One, go in with a very in-tune listening ears, okay? Open your ears. Listen, listen, listen. A lot of people will tell you to go in and ask a lot of questions. The thing is, when you're new to this, you don't have a lot of questions yet. You don't have the questions, but listen carefully. They're going to reveal the answers to many of those questions in conversation. So go in with listening ears. Encourage the doctors to keep talking, okay? When they give you that, do you have any question thing, that's usually their signal that they want out of the room and that they want you to go on about your business. Well, I don't know if you'll have a question necessarily, but say, well, can you explain again so-and-so? And repeat something they've already said maybe, because when they explain it again, they're going to say it in a different way, and it might be more understandable, and it may link to some of the questions that you didn't know you had yet. So do that. So open listening ears, encourage the doctors to keep talking, and always carry someone with you. Every visit, if possible, get a caregiver. You're going to need one in the end of this anyway. Get a caregiver that goes with you, and they can sit over there and listen. They may have questions you don't consider. They can take notes. It's good. I tell you the straight up fact. A lot of times, especially with cell phones being what they are, I'll record the conversation, okay? Not that I always do anything with that, but I'll go home and listen back through it. And I may hear things that I didn't hear the first time. So I would suggest those things. But Ian, congratulations to you. I wish you the best. I'll be following you. 22 people have responded to that, so that's pretty great already. We've got some heart transplant anniversaries here, some memes, medical school graduation gowns, and it's a gown with the, you can't see that really, but it's a gown with the back open. So we've all been there, done that. Very funny, Daniel Blayton. Appreciate that post. And we do have some of those posts too. Thanks for keeping it lighthearted, many of you. People asking on here to share their experience with certain hospitals. That's always handy because, you would want to do that with pretty much anything else in life that really doesn't matter. You might get on the internet and ask, who's a good plumber, painter, auto mechanic in the area. Hey, ask that. That's a good question. So Bradley Urick asked about that. He's wanting to go to Murray, Utah. I don't have any experience with that, but hopefully you got some answers. 18 answers on that. Let me see here. People constantly reminding, and I definitely appreciate this, constantly reminding us of the importance of registering to become an organ donor. You can go online and do that. You can even better sometimes when you're getting your new driver's license, or now you can actually go into the DMV, apply to be a registered organ donor. I don't even think they charge now to give you a new, fresh license to put that on it. That's wonderful. Now, that state per state may be different. I'm talking about us in Alabama. But the biggest thing is to always inform your family. Have a discussion with your family about such so they know your wishes and they know what to do. Some of these I'm not reading because I can't read the names. How about that? Let me see. I'm sorry for the delay here. A lot of celebrations going on here this week. Karina Eglin, I hope that's right, Edgin or something. Kalina Eglin says they're meeting we are meeting the family of my husband's new heart next week. It was 26-year-old man. I was nervous, excited, and grateful. It'll be a year since the transplant on September 12th. My husband is doing great. Congratulations for that. Only about 50% or less actually end up getting contact, really going, and especially meeting their donor families. And so that's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I've got a few videos on that, I would, where you can talk, just talk about, that initial contact, which you're past that, but also what to say when you meet, that type of suggestion. I'll try to link some of that. Most of them will have to be linked in the description because I've only got 5 I can put in the video here, but congratulations on that huge, huge accomplishment. Fred O'Neill celebrating 1 year thanks to his donor. So shout out to you, Fred O'Neill. I know you're doing great. I've seen you on here several times. Congratulations. That 1 year mark is a big deal. Every year is great. Every day, every moment is great. 1 year marks are big deals. As a matter of fact, transplants are graded per center based on 1, 3, and 5 year marks. Okay, so the 1, 3, and 5 year marks are 3 of the biggest milestones even your medical teams recognize. So making that 1 year mark is absolutely great. Tracy K. Pafil, I don't know how to say that, back in the hospital dealing with getting fluid off. They're They're talking about doing an LVAD as a bridge to transplant. And I'm going to tell you this. I'll say this in general. I've had entire videos about the LVAD. The LVAD being a bridge to transplant is not a bad option anymore, okay? Things are not perfect. There's still some issues. Blood clots are potential there. The surgery is a little bit difficult. Recovery's somewhat problematic. There's some issues, but LVAD to get you as a bridge to transplant is a great option right now. The list is what it is. The difficulty in getting on the list, getting the top of the list is what it is. And sometimes people need that buffer. They need a buffer between being deathly ill and the shock and awe of getting in that situation before transplant. So getting the LVAD to give them a few months or whatever it takes to get through that, to get through some issues, maybe to assemble some finances, to get their family on board. A lot of people are losing weight during that period of time as a requirement. So I think LVADs can be really good. Don't know your situation particularly, Tracy, but I wish you the best of luck. Your EF being 20 and heart failure stage 5, it's crazy. It's a shock to deal with that. So maybe that'll help. Someone right here posted, Kathy Stoner posts about a little meme, says, pumping vigorously if you feel like a palpitation. We're still battling with your insurance company for a better pacemaker. How many have been there and done that meme right there? That's terrible. That's the way it is. Insurance companies, they think they're gods or something. They look at our situations and try to judge what we need or don't need. It's just aggravating. I'm blessed. I hadn't dealt with that a lot, but I know it comes up. And so a guy here needing a pacemaker, but for now he's using a plunger because that's the best the insurance company will give him, I guess. Charlotte Tate, happy 25-year heart transplant anniversary to you. It's awesome to see that. That was back on July 21st. So congratulations on that. People posting pictures of some awesome looking food. So Jackie Osinski, I don't know. I'm telling you, I'm terrible with names, but Jackie Osinski, if you decide to cook that again, give me a holler. I'll come over. Got some ribs and green beans and stuff. It looks awesome. So great thing there. People talking about hallucinations with pain meds. Yeah, that's a big thing. Pain meds are just rough. I mean, that's why people abuse them. That's why people are addicted to them. They cause a lot of problems. And the shorter period of time you can be on them at any point in your life, the better. Of course, I've also learned in life it's better to take the meds than to deal with some of the pain sometimes, because what will happen is, and I've been there, done this, you don't want to take that medicine, so you put it off and you try, Tylenol, whatever, and then all of a sudden you're hurting so bad, it's so excruciating you can't help it, and then you take this and it takes a while to kick in, so you miss out some of the effect there, and then your pain gets out of balance. And so that's a lot of times in the hospital. At least my hospitals around here, they all have a board on the wall that tells the date and who the nurse is. And one of the goals down there a lot of times can be pain management. And you need that. And so take the medicines regularly as prescribed. And especially if you're in the hospital, they'll help you with that. But, don't wait till you're just dying, till the pain is just overcoming you before you take it. Just stay on top of it. That's your best deal. And then try to get off of it as quick as you can. Daniel Blayton, boy, we've all been there. I don't remember how far out you are. 26 comments on this one. Do you love the trimmers when you love the trimmers when you have overfilled your coffee cup? No, we don't like them. I can remember back when I first got out of transplant, one of my favorite things to eat at that point was, to go out and eat Mexican. We like Mexican around here, and to go out and eat that. And boy, you can't order rice anymore. There's no way. And country cooking like we do, peas and butter beans and stuff like that, couldn't do that. Couldn't eat a bowl of cereal. Anything that required a spoon and some real hand-eye coordination and holding, couldn't do it. Tea glasses, I learned to use a straw and kind of leave it on the table to drink or whatever the beverage was, because, hey, holding it up, I could pour it in my lap. So I feel you, Daniel. I'm not a coffee drinker, but yeah, a lot of people have been there, done that. It's hard. People asking on here constantly, where's everybody from? That's huge. And so, helps us to have the camaraderie going, having the, having the connection there. That's great. Matt Johnson says, beautiful Saturday morning for making wings. Yeah, Matt, you're another one. Matt, if you cook that again, give me a call. I don't know where you are, but I'll come if I can. People asking about medical ID bracelets. Some great products out there now. They're not the old ones your grandpa wore, you know, that kind of thing. Really some stylish, good-looking stuff now. They're available. Of course, they're pricey. In addition to that, most of you know your smartphones probably have some of that information in it. So, you know, it's not as important as they once were, but I'll tell you, it's easier. And I'm friends with several paramedics, and they'll tell you they know to look at someone's phone and such, but it's easier just to roll a wrist over and see that information if you can do that. So, yeah, sometimes a good idea if you're in a high-risk situation. Bonita Battrell, celebrating her husband's 10-year heart transplant anniversary. So congratulations to you on that. What a huge accomplishment, that 10-year mark. I'm still waiting on that one. That's absolutely great. Jet Rose Lawrence dealing with some issues. We need our prayers right now. A lot of things going on. So Jet, I see you on here all the time. Be praying for you. 24 comments on that. We're about to stop, by the way. Heather Patterson. She's just talking about running into a fellow transplant patient that they had known in Nebraska, and you know, finding out their situation. That's this new life, folks. We get to meet friends and people from all over, and we get that connection. And I see pictures constantly posted on here and in other groups where they went into the clinic, boom, they saw the friend that was in there with them at the same time back whenever, and they got their arms around each other, selfie type pictures. Always encouraging to see that. Again, some more funny stuff right here. Jeff Porter, thanks for clowning around, helping us out. I won't read all that. It's a long thing I read the other day. Good stuff. Anyway, Kentucky woman at 32 years, this article, it's an article here, Kentucky woman at 32 years, one of the longest surviving transplant patients. There are a few longer than that. I know a few personally, but 32 years is a monstrous, huge mark. So anyway, again, you probably sat through this enough. I hope I've answered some of these questions on here or helped you. Overall, I want you to know a few things. One, these Facebook groups, they're not always perfect. You should always talk to your team first, or in the end of things at least, and get their final opinion on that. I've been kind of hounding on that in the last few weeks, but they are good resources for emotional support, for encouragement, for asking the basic questions, especially questions that can't be answered. I mean, you're not going to go to your transplant team and say, hey, what if I move to another state? How good is that transplant center? They're not going to tell you that. They're not worried about that. But some of these team members can, so a lot of things in here that are absolutely great. Again, I do recommend the Heart Transplant Support Group. I hope everyone appreciated what we were able to do. Thank you so much, folks. Thank you so much for being a part of the Transplant Helper community. Let me remind you that being part of the Transplant Helper community part of that is watching some of these videos and participating in the comments. That's huge to all of us. But it's also going out face to face with people. Take opportunity when you're in clinics. Take opportunity when you're out to talk about organ donation. You are the best person out there to do that because you've lived it and you're living it now. You've been there, you're doing that. So take opportunity to be a helper to someone out there. Thank you so much. You're huge encouragements to me. I love each of you. I'll be putting some videos up here, as I said, in the corners, description below, over to the side, whatever. Subscribe button around here somewhere, that round thing. Hit that if you hadn't already. Be a tremendous help. But to each of you, please stay stronger, friends.